we doing?
Good boy. All right. Ready?
I've been ready. We just keep clapping hands and stuff. What is going on here?
Well, so that you can find the audio on those and line up the stuff at the same time.
Oh, I thought we were doing B-rolls.
Mm-mm.
You have a camera in your dog's ear canal.
Yeah, it's
It's awesome.
There's that camera. All right. It's 3 p.m. May 23rd, Tuesday, 3 days after Dave Sheek's birthday.
I don't have birthdays anymore.
And we decided to record a TUFF Talk in the four-wheel camper at Shady Rest Park in Mammoth Lakes, California. How you doing, Dave?
I'm a little tired. If I sneeze or cough or hack, I excuse myself now for the hole I rode myself into this past week.
Yeah, so if Dave sounds a little under the weather, it's because he is. We're doing some 350 testing and kind of dug a good enough hole that he doesn't feel so hot.
I might have lost.
Lost the test? Failed
lost
the test.
The battle. The battle to get to the line.
So the last time we talked, it was, I think, just exactly a month ago before Sea Otter. And we had just come back from Kansas, so we did a little bit of a recap there. And we haven't really had much time to do anything other than catch up on work since then. So we're doing our monthly TUFF Talk at the moment. And this is our... Good boy. This is our month recap right now. Shortly after we got back from Sea Otter, we went to Phil Guyman's Whiskey Tango Fondo event in Lone Pine. And what did we do there, Dave?
We were the aid station for 35, I think. I don't actually know the mileage. It got a little shifted around because Sierra's had pretty heavy winter, as most people know. It's not as bad as what's left behind as the news wants you to think. So come on up, enjoy it, because trails are starting to dry out. But yeah, we went up and did the aid station, and they made some reroutes that morning. So we kind of were finding people. Like, we thought we were going to see about 400, and I think we saw maybe 2.
Yeah, we saw about half. I mean, the short course people didn't come through our aid station, but yeah, we talked to Phil earlier in the week and was like, hey, do you need help? Because I know the Monday before our event, we definitely needed help, and he said yes, so we drove up to Lone Pine that morning. Yeah, we drove up that morning.
Yeah, it was early.
We drove up that morning and set up on Hogback Road. Whitney Portal was still closed, but some people decided to ride around the gate. But yeah, it was fun to do an aid station. I mean, we hadn't really ever set up our own aid station before at an event, so it was kind of fun to see it from that perspective. Don't you think? Seeing people so tired and wrecked.
I don't know. I kind of felt bad for a lot of people because they were coming in knowing the event that we do just a couple hours north, and they're like, is it tough this hard?
I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they had a bunch of rain washes, and I think the roads were a lot sandier than everybody expected. But by and large, most people that were coming through there were very grateful that we were there because it was at the top of that climb. And yeah, they got a big descent afterwards. I'm sure they were having fun.
Warmest day in California for the year.
Yeah.
So it was a shock for a lot of people. So we had some heat stroke to deal with. We had a lot of extra water brought in. We gave water to a paraglider who wound up coming out of the bushes that we didn't know.
Yeah, it was
some other randoms that came out of the bushes to use a porta potty.
Yeah, it was a cool perspective, to see people, to see a bunch of people that had done Mammoth Tough last year also. Like, we saw Ben, we saw those 2 guys that were wearing the Mammoth Tough socks, that guy Josh that lives in Mammoth. We saw a bunch of people, and it was kind of cool to be a part of that and see, like I said, see it from the aid station perspective, because you and I didn't even get to go to the aid stations for Mammoth. But
I feel like I did, but I'm going to just...
Did you? Did you go down there?
I don't even remember.
I don't think you did. We were kind of stuck at Canyon Boulevard.
I think I went to the water.
Yeah. But anyways, that was a blast. We came up here and there was a ton of snow, which was just, like I said, a month ago, and so much has melted since then. We got to, what did we do here? We just kind of hung out and did a couple rides down in Bishop. Oh, yeah, we did.
That weekend?
Yeah, you went and rode with Owen.
Checking routes.
Yeah.
And then, I have a younger athlete down or up in the Crowley area that have been helping a little bit. And so I went out for a long ride to check some routes. Amanda and Ben, who was at the event, went and checked some other routes for things that we were planning for some camps this past week. And then, just kind of more see how things are riding now that it is starting to melt out more.
Yeah, shout out LADWP. They did a great job maintaining their canal roads, and that was a majority of what Ben and I did that day was the stuff around the Big Pine Canal, and then you went a little bit more north, which were county roads, which were not as fun.
Yeah, but I mean, even in the past 2 weeks, we know that some stuff's been fixed from when we were out because you had a different experience because I sent you a similar route, and then it was definitely better already because they had scraped some sections. So it's shaping up. There's a lot of repairs to do this year, which is I'm super happy to say that the event is in September because if it was right now, I'd be concerned.
Yeah, but they are doing good work. I mean, that stuff, Chicago Canyon Road that I saw, we'll get into it because I want to talk about what we just did up here. But I think, they're doing a good job of fixing everything, knowing the extent of the damage that happened this winter.
Yeah, and then back to the whole stuff riding around Bishop area. Like, once you kind of hit June, it gets really warm, and a lot of people ride either earlier in the morning or go up high. And so these last 2 weeks of May are kind of the better riding time before everybody starts to ride higher in the Eastern Sierra. So I actually had a private camp last week, and we went out and rode a lot of those canal roads and stuff Amanda's talking about, and the riding's just been amazing, and there's more water than normal flowing through everything, so it's kind of cool to go and see it a little different than normal.
Yeah, the Dobler had a private camp with you. He signed up for our May camp and couldn't switch to June, so Dave ended up doing a private camp with him, which we do, by the way. We want to remind people that if you want to come ride in Bishop or up in Mammoth and you have no idea where to start, what kind of routes to do, or what to expect with conditions, we can figure it out for you. So that was the case with Michael, and you got to...
Yeah, he actually spends a lot of time in the area with friends that live in a small community in between Crowley Lake and Bishop, and so I was kind of showing him areas to go ride and what is accessible and not, because you have to understand, can I enter this gate? Can I not?
Yeah.
Can I go over here, or am I going to run into bulls? And so I did scouting and looked at a lot of things, and then kind of knowing the area, it's kind of just one of those things that we like to share too, so that he's more comfortable going out on his own when he gets up here, because just like the event, once you kind of get a little bit out of town, you don't really have service, and you kind of need to know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. You and I always say what we know is where not to ride more than we know where to ride.
Yeah, that's always like, I would say the better part of, not Amanda's favorite way to ride, but mine, is to go get lost until you have to turn around, and then you know that's not a road you want to go down again in the future.
Yeah, immediately no. Dave's the one finding those roads. So, I mean, you got to do that. That looked like a lot of fun. You had Weaver go out and help with SAG, so again, if you want to set up an adventure ride and you're too nervous to do it by yourself, but you want to go do something cool, reach out to us. We can set something up and make sure that you can do it safely.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things too. People that know they're going to come vacation in these areas, like the individual we're mentioning, so it's setting up those logistics, introducing them to the local shop so they know where to go to get things, get repairs, and then taking them out, show them general ideas of the roads and what areas they can start to explore from, and then kind of beyond that. We can always help with those logistics, and it's fun to always ride with new people. What was that?
This one's still recording for some reason. That one stopped. Yeah, Dobler. So that was last week. You came up here for that on Wednesday. And then Thursday, what did we do in town here in Mammoth? MLR.
Oh, yeah. That was Thursday? Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we came back up for Mammoth Lakes recreations meetings based on, Adopt a Trail program. And group that nonprofit that's in town that we give back to, and they do a lot of the maintenance and kind of they're the backbone of all the trails and outdoor recreation similar to that's in the area. So even with fishing areas and
arts, they support the arts in town.
So it's a cool program for us to support, because even if people are coming out hiking, it's like the signs that are at the front of the trailheads, the trash cans, other things that are out there that make it more usable for others. It's this group that's taking care of everything.
Yeah, and so they had their annual trails meeting, which kicks off summer, which is funny because there's still so much snow around here. But this is the time of the year that they start that, because they're going to start setting up trail work and everything. And so before the main trails meeting, they had their Adopt a Trail meeting a half an hour before. And so we are going to volunteer sponsor the Uptown Trail again this year. And in Bike Reg, when you guys register for Mammoth TUFF, there's an option in the Pledge Reg area to help us adopt the actual trail financially this year. And so that's our goal, is to try and be able to raise enough money to sponsor all of Uptown financially and through volunteer hours. So you can help us out in either of those ways by volunteering your time if you come up here and ride this summer, and also through the donations on Bike Reg when you register for the event.
Sometimes you find cool stuff.
Yeah, we found a lot of car crash plastic.
I got a knife
cans
last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Don't know what it was used for, but I got one.
I mean, I think after this winter, there's going to be a lot of hidden treasures that just show up on the side of the road.
If it wasn't under snow.
And for those of you that don't know, Uptown is the one that parallels the road up to Main Lodge. So a lot of the junk that comes from the side of those roads ends up on Uptown. So it is actually a lot of work to keep it maintained, but it's also part of our mountain bike loop that we always do. So it's nice to just ride through there and check on it.
It's the Freetown Trail on the way to the bike park.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be a part of that, and it's the first trail when you jump outside of the village.
Yeah. Someday it'd be cool to incorporate it, but I don't think we'd ever be able to do immediate single track. Maybe that can be our, like,
if you don't want to make friends,
uphill gravel TT
challenge.
That'd be cool.
Gravel dual slalom. I'm still behind this
with
idea.
With an uptown and downtown? You could do it on that.
Then it's just time segments.
Yeah, true. Can you do me a favor and hit record on that camera over there? Let's see if it works.
It's really hot.
Oh, maybe it overheated. Cool. So that was Thursday. I'm kind of wanting to get into us being up here for Dave's big birthday weekend, because on the way up to Mammoth, we were on the phone, and I was like, looking at the weather, you should probably do your long ride tomorrow.
Yeah, I had a plan to ride about 4 hours. Like, usually this time of year for getting ready for a lot of unbounds, I've spent week with people taking a tour across California for people that came with CTS to do Tour of California. So I'm used to riding, 4 to 6 hours a day for 6 days in a row. And it was always a good just last little volume bump. And so I had this idea I was going to do some miles, but I've had to dig out of a weird hole because I haven't really talked about it much. Some people might have seen the knee brace, but I tore my MCL about 10 weeks ago. So I'm working through that and trying to add the miles back. And so I had a plan of some good miles this week mixed in with riding with our guests that came to town. And so it was good, but then the weather stepped everything up a day. So my recovery or easy day kind of changed. And then, it was a hard day.
Yeah. So we shifted around. I mean, we even looked at the weather. I think that was our main drive of making you change it, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday all had afternoon storms, and Friday was the least threatening looking on the weather. So we said, hey, wake up early, go figure out your lights, and go do your Bishop Bridgeport June Lake stupid ride.
I call it the B2B. The BB ride.
Yep.
Bishop to Bridgeport.
All pavement.
And then
all pavement.
My plan was to finish at the June Lake Brewery for this sour that they have on tap, like thinking this will be really cool. And then there's the Hawaiian food, and it all worked out pretty well except for the beer.
Yeah, and so I stayed up in Mammoth that night. David started in Bishop, and our plan was he was going to go do this thing. I was going to go check out part of the beginnings of our routes that start from town, and then make my way back through Hot Creek and back in and go find him somewhere in June. So he had a little bit of a later start. I took my time. And then I went out, did Scenic Loop, and then checked out Antelope Springs Road, which for everyone, that is the beginning of the long route. So the long route takes off up and down Antelope towards Hot Creek and Owens River Road. So that was where I went, and then kind of back up Hot Creek and checked out the stupid lava rock death road.
It's a little bit of a loop. That's the start of the long route, connects to where the medium and short come through those meadows, and then where everybody finishes back over Hot Creek and gets to see the bubbling water in the last aid station.
Yeah, and part of why I did it was because I was fully expecting Antelope Springs Road to be a mess, and I thought my gravel report was going to be like, don't ride this yet, it's not rideable, and it ended up being amazing. I think it was just kind of low enough. Yeah, that the dirt was perfect. I went through one puddle of water maybe on my way over towards Owens River Road, but the thing is, on the backside of Antelope, as it descends into the valley, that had a lot of rain rut washout stuff on it, so just be careful if you end up on that backside. But I'm sure they'll fix it up, and it's a wide enough road that there was like half of the road was still fine next to it, like I told you.
As long as the road's not missing, it's rideable.
And if you are going to be up in Mammoth anytime soon, I highly recommend going to Hot Creek, because for some reason the geothermal activity is going crazy right now. And I sent you that video. There's just like bubbles of hot egg-smelling geyser stuff going on.
Great talk. Thanks.
But while all this is happening, Dave is on his vision quest towards Bridgeport.
I was.
Where were your, can you tell everybody where your stops were along the way? Because I think it's kind of a cool route.
I made a plan for a route where the goal is to test out, like, how far can you go mileage-wise to mimic things that are going to happen at certain events, so like Unbound. But the thing that I always kind of forget about, because I've ridden all of this but in different sections and never all at once, and so it was I greatly underestimated the amount of climbing.
Headwind.
And there was a headwind for the entirety of the way to Bridgeport, except for a few sections where I was in the trees, and yeah, it made for a little longer than expected. So yeah, I was going to go Bishop to Lee Vining, which is the bottom of Tioga Pass, the town there, which is the way into Yosemite. But with all the winds and everything, I knew there was a earlier stop at the June Lake Junction, which is just a few miles up the road. So I actually stopped there, and then I still went to Lee Vining anyway, because I was testing out a new hydration device on my arm, and it drained the battery in my phone, so I had to get a cable for my battery charger.
So you weren't planning on stopping at June?
My first stop was going to be Tioga Pass or Lee Vining. And so because of the headwinds, like, I was still moving pretty well, but that was like 4 hours and a pretty good average. And yeah, I was like at a quarter bottle, and I mean, you can see it, you know where you're going, but I'm like, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna stop here. They're open. And so.
And you couldn't find the cable at the June Lake?
They didn't have cables there, so then I went thinking, well, everybody goes into Yosemite, so this mobile mart at the bottom is like, I don't know, a shopping mall.
The most general store of all time.
But it has an amazing restaurant if you've never been there. And so, yeah, I went there, and they didn't have one. So then I had to go to
They didn't have one?
I had to go to a mobile in Lee Vining, so I had to make more stops than I had planned. Because now at this point, my phone's like below 20% and it's just draining. I couldn't figure out which app was running that was draining it until I got the cable. And then, but it still wouldn't have made it through the day if something would happen. So I had to get the cable. So originally it was Bridgeport, Lee Vining. So I shifted that, and then I was going, or Bishop, Lee Vining, Bridgeport. I was just going to do one stop in between because it's like 100 miles there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I stopped sooner and then had a couple other cable stops. And then I made it to Bridgeport to my Shell station, if anybody watched the story, for my soup. And then...
Oh, yeah, you did the pulled top Campbell's soup.
It's a great sodium bomb. Love it.
The Panda gas station store lunch.
Yeah. So, and we had tested that before with 350. And so that was something that I knew I was going to... It's always something you can get at a Mobile Mart or any kind of those gas station stores is soup. Not something that I ever really eat, so I have to test it. So yeah, I did that and had my second favorite, which is soda and pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why my body runs so well off of that, but I felt better when I turned around than maybe it was soup. So
the simplest of simples: sugar, flour, salt.
And like eating, super fuel and everything perfect on the way out there, and turn around. I'm like, I think I feel better now.
Yeah, just give me the regular
Eat junk,
stuff.
ride fast.
Did the super fuel work in the beginning pretty well?
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just wanted like stuff in your stomach.
Yeah, I know my palate changes around hour 4 to salty.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though it's a lot of sodium and you're getting fluids in, it's not the like savory, because I'm just over the soury sweet.
And so I messaged you and said, do you want to pick up or do you want me to wait at June Lake Brewing Company? And you said, yeah, just meet me on the loop somewhere.
No, you said, do you want me to pick up on the 395?
Oh, yeah. I thought I was going to meet you
You're not
going
to find me on the 395.
I forgot it was all mostly downhill.
Because at this point, I was at a tailwind.
Yeah.
And it's not all downhill, which I came to find out. Leaving Bridgeport back up to Virginia Lakes turn is...
Oh, yeah.
It's like 2%, so it's like a false flat the entire way back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, I just pedaled into a headwind downhill, and I finally got a tailwind, and I still have to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I got back there, and then I made it into the backside of the June Lake Loop, and that's where I think you guys found me, just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles from the brewery.
Oh, yeah. So I drove backwards
Grant
on the loop.
or Silver Lake.
Mm-hmm. And found you going along Grant Lake, which was kind of cool to see because there was so much water in it. And there hasn't, I'm pretty sure last year when I did this ride, I was just thinking about how there wasn't enough water in Grant Lake. So it was cool to see that. And you were moving. I followed you for a while until we finally hit like a little riser. And then you're like, oh, okay, stop here.
I'll just say at that point I was feeling a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I had already had, we don't need to get into training peaks, but the negative I was in before I started this week, and then that ride especially, it was I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but that was the plan. That was putting you in that position.
It was to mimic day 2 of 350, and I felt like I mimicked day 3. Which is why I feel the way I do right now.
So, for anyone that doesn't know, Ohana's is one of the food trucks that's parked next to June Lake Brewing Company over in June Lake. And it is one of Dave's favorites. And then the sour that June Lake normally has on tap is also one of his favorites. And lo and behold, they were waiting until Memorial Day to bring out the sour. So we went to order
Just started brewing it.
And she's just like, oh, yeah. No, we don't have that. And in the most nonchalant way, and your face just like dropped.
I rode here for one reason.
Yeah. I have been riding
tofu noodle
8
bomb.
hours.
Yeah.
I have been riding 8 hours for the sour.
It was a good ride, except for the last hour was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And, I mean, we still go to Hana's, so it was good. It was a fun day.
If you wouldn't have picked me up, we wouldn't have made it in time.
Oh, I know. You wouldn't have gotten the food in time.
When you said pick you up, I'm like, yeah, otherwise I don't get my food, so we're going.
Yeah, so that was going to be Dave's birthday ride, but like we said, we had to move it up a day because of the weather. We ended up, we had Walter, so we walked around the lake, had some fun, and I think Dave's favorite state of existence is tired and exhausted, and we made that happen that day for you.
Yeah. Takes everything else off the plate.
That was May 19th. May 20th. We decided to do the ride that we were going to do the day before, which was checking out Fish Slough and part of our long route course and scouting some of that to see what conditions it's in for a gravel report on the route.
It's also 90 degrees for the high that day, and then thunderstorms in the afternoon up high, and so when it's that warm and you're going back along the long course through those red rock canyons, there's a ton of solar radiation on the rock, so you get really baked. So if it's 100, it's 115.
Feels like, yeah.
And so we knew it was going to be warm. It's the time of year that you can't go there without having another like SAG or somebody to give you things, or going and leaving water in places or filtering it. And so I knew
that, but I kind of like didn't know that.
Well, you said like we should be fine, and I'm like, okay, then I'll just go park at Tom's place.
Yeah.
At the top of the pass, and I'll ride reverse, knowing what was going to happen, especially from my experience the day before. And so I put 2 extra bottles on my bike and a full backpack to find Amanda, saving 1 sip left because she had already drank all of her water.
We've got a lot of action over here. The Shady Rest Park is going off. Yeah, so that was the plan, was you were wrecked, so you were going to go park at Tom's and then ride backwards on my route to meet me.
Yep.
And so my plan, and I checked Windy before I left, and I was like, oh, sweet, if I ride up the 6 or up Fish Slough, it's going to be a tailwind the whole way. So I decided to make the beginning part fast and ride up 6 towards Chalfont, and I was doing like 22 miles an hour, not even trying. By the time I turned onto the dirt, I was 18 miles an hour average. So I turned on the dirt, and that is technically, I was looking at the map later, that is actually Chicago Canyon. So what I rode through, those water crossings and everything.
The Petroglyph Road.
Yeah, that is actually Chicago Canyon. The Red Rock Canyon that is on our route is Chicago Canyon Road. So that's just the name of the road, but like what the actual canyon is the one that I rode through that day. And I've always seen it on the map. I'd seen Hunter post pictures about it before, but there's some cool like mini looking Devil's Post Pile but red rock formation out there.
It's where rocks have a perfect vertical line.
And it was rad. There's like 4 of them probably positioned out there. There's also a shooting range. I forgot to tell you that, but
it's not a real shooting range.
It's not. It's definitely not. It was kind of sketchy, and I was like, "Why is this out here?" But yeah, there's water that runs from Hamel Valley down half of this canyon. So the first half of the canyon, I was telling you, I did like 8 water crossings. I probably have some footage of it that I'll throw in here. But it was pretty cool. I thought for a second I should turn around and take the other way that we had talked about, but I was committed. I was like, no, I'm doing this. I got to practice for Caldera.
I highly recommended not going through this canyon, and she still went through the canyon.
I wanted to see it.
When she wasn't responding to the messages I was sending, I was thinking, well, that's because she probably took the other way and she's slower. So I took some extra time because there was no way I was going out for a 5-hour ride to find her. And I'm like, I'm doing 3 today max, which it actually worked out. But yeah, I was laughing because when you got to the top, there's like, maybe a quarter of a bottle left, and I'm like, hey, I brought these.
Yeah, so half of Chicago Canyon, the real Chicago Canyon, it was wet, and then the second half was completely dry, and to the point where I was hiking through a bunch of sand wash runoff. And then I made it to Fish Slough. It was still a tailwind, so I had like a awesome time riding up Fishman. I was even thinking the whole time, like, this road is not in bad shape at all. They must have at least done one scrape through of it.
2 weeks prior for me, it was heavy.
Yeah, and then I passed the second petroglyph stop, made the left towards the Red Rock Canyon, and even that was in great shape. I rode by a bunch of walkers, people who were hiking through it, and they're like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, don't worry, my boyfriend parked at Tom's. I'm gonna be okay. Meanwhile, they're staring at this like massive storm cloud that I'm about to run into, and I'm pretty sure they were all thinking like, yeah you're not okay.
Yeah, because as I'm riding out from there, I can see this gray mass just drifting across the sky, and you can tell it's raining, and I kind of stayed on the edge of it the entire way. But as I was kind of recording it in stories, you can just hear the sky like, where at first I'm like, oh, there's trucks coming up the road behind me.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually see lightning, but it was it was a bit noisy out there. And then did we hit a little bit of it?
I got like sprinkled on at the end of that road, and then we hit, I think it's called Moran Spring, which is the name of that spring at the top of Chicago Canyon Road where it hits Benton Crossing. And that was wild for us to see because we had never seen it with A, that much water, or B, that much water damage. And that's just a normal road that is traditionally just a nice gravel section, and it was just chewed up. And that's where I found the horseshoe.
Yeah, this is the top part of people coming back up to the second aid station on our long course.
Mm-hmm.
So, got a lucky horseshoe this year. I'm pretty sure the winner should get it. What is this? You're like, I found this out on course.
Like, it was bizarre too. I mean, it's hard to explain. Maybe I'll put some of the video in, but it was just a random spring runoff, and I just saw this horseshoe sitting there, and who knows how long it had been sitting there.
Although I have had 2 messages from people that say do not get rid of that thing.
Yeah?
I'm like, I don't know what this thing means, but I guess they're lucky.
Nice. Yeah, who knows? That spring has been there forever, and we always make fun of the miner guy that lives out there that we're like, he can live out here because he can just survive off this spring that's out here. I'm sure a lot of people did a long time ago. And then so at this point I have found you. We're riding back towards Tom's place, and I am a mess because, like you were saying, I was running out of water.
Yep.
I packed enough water for 5 hours of what would normally at sea level be fine. 5 bottles for 5 hours, and I really needed probably 8.
And then the storm had passed because I rode the edge of it, and it actually, when I dropped down into the canyon to find her, it went by us, and so when we came back up top, it was probably 20 degrees cooler.
And if it had stayed, I would have been so screwed. It was just one of those, you think you know, and then you forget how harsh it is out there and how you actually have no idea what's going to happen.
Which is why Mammoth TUFF is a lot more fun to ride than just going out on your own, because it's not the best place to go explore on your own unless
no safety net.
You really know where you're going, and then you really pad for issues that can happen.
Yeah, and in this one, you were my safety net because you had 2 extra bottles that I ended up drinking.
I even offered to bring a water filter, knowing that the spring would have water.
I forgot about that.
I'm like, maybe you should take this. I won't need it. Okay.
Committed. I was committed. I haven't even checked the temperature on my file.
I guarantee you it was so hot in those rock canyons.
But it was good. I mean, I'm doing the 100 at Unbound, so it was a test for me to figure out heat acclimation stuff and how my body's reacting, and it was not doing well. So good to know. Information for next week when we go to Kansas. But yeah, that was our big Dave's. When I was filming in the bottom of the canyon, I was like, well, this is Dave's adventure birthday ride that he's not on. You only got the second half of your birthday ride that I was on by myself. But we did it. We made it to Tom's place. And Rock Creek is raging right now.
Yeah.
All of the water
coming down from the upper elevations. And it gets a little faster in the afternoons. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to warn people about that. Because there's like Post-its around town on telephone poles.
I mean, it's true. It is crazy how wild it is in the afternoon. Like, everything is just gnarlier. Like, so the next day we kind of took a day off and chilled and cleaned Bishop and did some stuff around the house. And then the next day we decided to go split boarding up South Lake.
So
how did that go?
Highway 168 out of Bishop up to Lake Sabrina and South Lake. If you head towards South Lake, a lot of these high passes are still closed to cars, but they've scraped them to start to open up the pack stations and campgrounds and everything else, and so they were still cleaning snow off. So we rode 3.5, 4 miles up.
Yeah, 4. It was like 4.5, I think.
With like 50 pounds of gear on.
Yeah.
Not the best, but
45
for a short
minutes.
jump, you can A-frame your stuff and then ride your bike.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I'm just realizing right now that was like 6 miles per hour. We were crawling over that, but yeah, we were completely loaded down. Last time we did an adventure like that, we took e-bikes. This time we took regular bikes. You were on the RLT with gravel tires, and I was on my Air 9 with mountain bike tires. So we had 2 different setups, but both were fine for getting up the hill with the board strapped on. And we went into it like, oh, Dave's tired. Like, we just did a lot of stuff. Maybe, we'll just go up there and see how it is. We'll just, like, scope it out. And then it went full on 7-hour day later.
Amanda is a little more pampered when we head out of the Sherwin areas or Tamarack and Mammoth. And so she's used to groomed roads and that lead right to the bottom of the climbs that go to the bowls that we want to ski.
Yeah,
and this
I'm like
was
such a princess. I didn't realize.
Real, where she had to use ski crampons and wanted to tell me that she didn't want to learn how to use them.
Okay, I had a meltdown. I had a meltdown is what Dave's trying to say.
We were going to slide sideways into a frozen lake on and off camber that's like 20 degrees because she won't put crampons on.
Okay, so we went into ski mode. Is that ski mode? Is that what it's called when you're splitting?
We were just touring.
Okay, we're touring mode. Going up, having a good time, going up the road to the South Lake parking lot. We get past that, and all of a sudden it like descends into this off-camber canyon of death. And I start getting partway across it, and I was like, I don't think I can do this, Dave. You're like, I'm just going to put the crampons on. You pull them out, and I was like, I don't want those. And you're like, you have to put them on. I'm like, I don't want those. I said, I don't want to do anything that requires me to use those. And, this is what I love about you, is that you just, like, forced me to do it anyways and put them on regardless of my pushing back.
If you don't learn how to use them now, when are you going to learn how to use them?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to learn how to use them.
I said I don't want to have to be in situations where I need them.
Well, I'm going to put them on, and then you can tell me if you want me to take them off.
Yep.
And so we put them on, and then you realize this really isn't that bad. It's like a snowshoe, except it grips.
Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden I wasn't sliding sideways anymore. It like bites into the snow enough that you can get across. And then we got into the more flat stuff. And at that point, my blister is starting to form, and I said to you, I am not having fun anymore.
So second meltdown came about another mile up the basin. And I'm like, all we have to do is go up that drainage right there, that gully, and then we can ski that bowl. And you're like, well, what about right here?
Yeah, and
I looked at some trees and I'm like,
awesome.
Great, let's do that.
I thought it was going to be completely crappy, and we made this like sharp left up this slope, which from where we were standing looked like it was just going to be like, meh.
You better share pictures of those. Yeah. It means nothing.
Yeah, no, I know. I'll put some video in. But basically, we turned the corner, went a couple switchbacks up these trees, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is like the perfect run.
Yeah.
And, I love how that happens. We've had a couple times where we do that. We just, like, go out without too much of a plan, and then we find something that's awesome.
You generally need a plan.
Well, we knew where we were going, but I didn't know I was going to have a meltdown right there and needed something to look forward to. So...
Yeah, it worked out. And then nice hike back, but it's generally not this activity for people that don't like exercise. Go ride chairlifts because
it was a lot of work.
You hike for 4 hours for 20 minutes of
I don't think I captured this on film, but remember when I was laying there after eating my sandwich, and I was like, is this how people who do Unbound feel when like they don't eat or drink anything and they get to the checkpoints
and then they just eat
and
everything?
Then they eat the whole sandwich and like lay there for 10 minutes, and then they get up and they're like, I'm ready to go, because that's exactly what happened to me. I was on empty. I was just getting below empty, and then we stopped and had the sandwich, and then ended up having a really fun ride down.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It was just a longer day than. There wasn't a full freeze the night before, so the snow was already a little slow.
It was a lot of work.
But the Eastern Sierra is known for this corn snow, and
we got it.
Yeah, every spring and the beginning part of summer, this is like the best time of year. Like there was 2 people from France going up same road, and then the other guy on the bike, yeah. And there was already 2 in a group ahead of us that probably went out in dark. So it's it's cool to go out and explore, and you always get to see interesting people, especially in springtime when it's time to go corn harvesting.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a cool adventure, and the main reason why we did it, one, I said, as a person in Bishop, I've never been up splitboarding above the stuff above Bishop, and I felt like I wasn't like a real Bishop person, so we needed to go do that. And we wanted to test our stuff out so that when we come back after Unbound, we can go do Tioga.
And you found out that to be a real Bishop person, you have to work more.
Bishop people are tough, man. That's what we decided. We were like, man, the Bishop folks are just hard. They got to work harder to have just as much fun on everything. Yep. 2 wheels, boards, skis, anything like that. It's true.
So, anyway, we're about to head back to Orange County, get things ready. Next week's Unbound. Mm-hmm. Heading out there. Still haven't decided what I'm doing with my life when I get out there. But.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, Dave's in a hole. I'm definitely doing the 100, but by the time this posts, maybe Dave will know what he's doing. By the time we leave on Monday, maybe not.
Yep.
That's how it goes with us.
But regardless, you'll see us at the expo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Bobby Thompson got a booth space for his Discover Gravel stuff.
Which is, he has 2 events
Flint
right
Hills
now.
Gravel, Rock Ridge Gravel, and his Ultra.
And they have a mountain bike race.
Oh, yeah, and a mountain bike race in October.
And so they'll be there with info about all the events, and then he's also who we partnered with for our Kansas camps. And we'll go out for Unbound, and then we'll go take a look at potentially some stuff around Alma, which is our July camp back out in Kansas. So about an hour in the northern part away from Emporia. So north of Emporia, I think, is the Alma area. This is where I actually had to quit the 350 last time because it ate all my tires. And it's but the riding's amazing around there. It's just a lot rockier.
Yes. Yeah, so we will be at the expo with Bobby's thing, Discover Gravel and Tough Ventures. We'll have a little booth set up, so if you have questions, if you didn't get into Unbound and you're going to be out there, come ask us about Rock Ridge Gravel and the camp that we're going to do. It is July 5 through 8, so just after 4th of July holiday. So you can, extend the holiday, make it a fun trip, and come join us at Rock Ridge Gravel. I mean, it's a small, really small, relatively speaking, to Unbound event. I think he has like 200 people signed up so far, and that's where he wants to keep it. So, come out, join us at a smaller, chunkier gravel Kansas event.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal is to grow it like the Flint Hills gravel. It's just a time of year where it's so warm that the distances are a little shorter. I think my goal is to go and do the Friday night. So they have a 150, but to do 150 in July in Kansas, you have to start Friday at 6 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah, so most of it's done in the dark.
So we do most of it in the dark and then finish the next day. And then there's also like a 70 and a 30.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for the camp, it'll be interesting because we'll have some early mornings and then mix in the riding in the surrounding hills to get people acquainted with the rocks.
Yeah.
Above the town.
If you are going to be in Emporia next week, please come and do the Wednesday Worlds Shakeout Ride on Wednesday. That's going to be with Dave and Bobby, and I think Babes on Bikes is leading that as well. So there's going to be a big group of folks riding Wednesday after late evening, 6 p.m. from the Veterans Park in Emporia, and you guys are going to do that, answer any questions people have about camp, and kind of just kick off the...
I'm just there to win the
Unbound
town
week.
sprints.
It's on, Jeffy.
If you've never ridden with people from Kansas, there's this thing where once you start coming back towards town, they talk you up and then they sprint the last 100 yards to the sign that says, welcome to whatever town it is, or county limits, any of these limits signs, or town, city limits. It's
exactly.
like they sprint for all of them, and it's like, I did not know this is a thing.
Yep.
But we laugh about it.
Yep, so that's Wednesday. I'm going to be at the Gravel Cycling Hall of Fame banquet and after party, so we're splitting time there on Wednesday, and then the rest of the week we will be around doing all of the regular Unbound.
Yeah, at the expo Thursday afternoon, Friday, and then Saturday's the event.
Yep, and then we talked about July, but before we get into that month, we have our June 22 through 25 camp up in Mammoth. We have about 6 people signed up for that so far. So if you are looking for something to do pre-4th of July celebrations, come ride June 22 through 25 in Mammoth Lakes. We're going to start all of them from here. And we did a camp at this, it was a private camp last year at this exact same time, and the weather was just amazing. I think historically and traditionally speaking, that is a week that is before things get really hot, so it's kind of the perfect time to start doing some gravel stuff up here.
Yeah, and it's good to get out and see. If people do want to come and see Mammoth TUFF, we get to break it down in pieces, so we'll get to see parts of things and then show you some other fun spots to ride. You know, because it's like people that might see the short course, like we can show them things that are the beginning parts of the long course and break things up like that, and other areas to generally ride around Mammoth Lakes that we might not incorporate into the event.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that if you haven't been here before, you probably don't know, but all 3 of our routes have 3 different starts. So the one cool thing about coming to camp is that you can see all the 3 different starts if you want to, and see how each one rolls out of town, and also how they all finish. And we've talked about this many times before, but those are the 2 most important things to see before any event: start and finish.
Always.
So with that, this is our May monthly update for TUFF Talks and Sea Otter.
Yep, definitely a lot of travel in April.
Yeah.
Explored my TUFF a little too much over the last few weeks.
You did.
Lost the battle. Now we're gonna recoup, and we will see you guys in June.
Yep, this is Amanda, Dave, and Walter White with plenty of cameos in this episode from the back of Shady Rest Park in our 4-wheel camper. We haven't even...
You've recorded a couple podcasts.
Oh, yeah, I've done Grodeos in here.
You talked about it last time that we picked it up on the way to Sea Otter.
True. So welcome to the 4-wheel camper pop-up studio, locker, dog bed, hangout, storage unit, all of the above. Project M 4-wheel camper. Welcome. Yeah, hopefully we'll do a few more of these. I think as our June gets a little busy, I'd like to do a couple shorter recap episodes instead of a super long one. But thanks for listening if you got this far. I think probably the only person that's gotten this far is Charles. Charles, thanks for listening, Charles.
We can put it in there too, just notes on like stuff that's going to come in June and July, because we're going to have more of the camps, and then we're going to start to go out, and we'll talk about it more with Caldera coming. It's a 500-mile route. There's a few other versions of it for people that like bike packing, and so we're going to start doing some scouting of it and making sure things are rolling well while we're still planning the event, and then share some of that content along the way. So I'm sure we're going to have more of Amanda's adventure stories of running out of water, giving up on life, and her love of ski crampons.
Yes. More soon.
Until then.
All right.
Explore your tough.